Ash fell softly through the high windows of the Red Keep's decapitated throne room, drifting like snow across blackened flagstones and the gilded ruin of Aegon's great seat. A skirl of wind slipped past the collapsed roof, stirring banners scorched to rags and making the pale moat swirl in silent eddies. Somewhere outside, a horse snorted amid the rubble-strewn courtyard, and a distant hammer rang where masons already labored to keep the walls from crumbling. It was a city still trembling in the aftershocks of dragonfire and war, and everything smelled of smoke and salt. The smoke of burnt streets, the salty tang of the sea breeze, and the sharper salt of tears too many to count. In the long shadow of the ruined Iron Throne, the nobles of Westeros gathered in a wide arc. Lords and ladies in travel-stained finery, maesters in gray, knights in dented plate, and sellsword captains with rust in their cloaks. Even the grass-stained cloaks of the north looked dull beneath layers of dust. They stood shoulder to shoulder, an uneasy tide of colors and crests, murmuring like surf around jagged rock. At the heart of that tide, a single man fidgeted with the sleeve of his ill-fitting doublet. Samwell Tarly of Hornhill, eldest living son of a house that no longer claimed him, sworn brother of the Night's Watch that no longer existed, and maester in training with no chain yet about his neck. His boots were scuffed from 1,000 miles of roads, his eyes rimmed red from sleepless nights spent poring over scrolls in the Tower of the Hand, and his mind still rang with the echo of Tyrion Lannister's impossible words. Let Samwell speak. How strange that Tyrion, once confidante to queens and kings, had chosen him, Samwell the Fat, Samwell the Craven, to address the highest lords of the realm. Stranger still that Sam's halting suggestion, that the Seven Kingdoms might choose their king as free men chose their village headmen, had not been laughed back into his throat, but had taken root, quietly, like seeds cast upon a field charred clean by war. Yet here they were, breathing the stale air of shattered grandeur, and choosing. Bran the Broken, mailed in the quiet dignity of a Stark, had gently declined. Sansa had claimed the north. Gendry outran the idea like a startled colt. Edmure Tully managed only bluster. And in the hush that followed those refusals, the eyes of great men and women, all weary, all afraid of the next tempest, turned toward Samwell Tarly, who had spoken the words that unlocked this moment. They murmured of his wide reading, of his even temper, of the way ravens answered his call in the rookery. Above all, they murmured of the single truth etched on every tired face, that knights and dragons and lion kings had broken them. Yet somehow the gentle heart of this soft-spoken scholar had survived, uncorrupted. It was Lord Royce who broke the silence at last. The realm is wounded, he rumbled, iron beard glinting. It needs a healer, not a conqueror. I choose Samwell Tarly. A ripple of surprise flickered over the assembly, like wind across a barley field. Lady Barbary Dustin followed, her left hand resting on the wolf pelt at her shoulders. A healer, she echoed, and nodded to Sam as though granting him a place at her hearth. Lord Glover, pallid from loss but resolute, raised a mailed fist. The Knight of Silverhill, still smelling faintly of wildfire, bowed. From the Dornish cluster, Princess Arianne lifted her chin in silent assent. One by one, the lords found in those gentle brown eyes a balm for their grief, and one by one their banners dipped. When at last Sansa's clear voice carried across the hall, the North has its own king beyond these walls. But for the 6 kingdoms, I named Samwell Tarly. The matter was done. Sam's knees threatened to give way, yet somehow he remained upright while the voices rose. They did not cheer. After so much blood, cheering felt obscene. Instead, they spoke their oaths in low, reverent tones, names and promises, weaving into a tapestry of fragile hope. Sam heard only fragments as the world spun. Protect the innocent, restore the harvest, keep the faith of the Seven and the old gods both. He wanted to protest that he did not know how to be a king, that his sword arm was weak, that he had no taste for courts or crowns. But he remembered another oath, spoken years before at a different ruin, cloaked in the black of the watch beneath a cold, uncaring sky. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. A king could be a shield too, if he let the realm stand behind him. When the last vow faded, Tyrion stepped forward with a circlet of beaten silver. No dragons, no swords, only a braided ribbon of leaves and stars. "It ought to rest upon your brow," Tyrion whispered. "But the walls have ears, and you have thumbs. Put it where it feels right." Sam laughed. A soft, bewildered puff of air, then clasped the circlet over his heart instead. The hall exhaled as though that single gesture set something free. For an instant he thought he saw Jon Snow among the lords, a dark figure half lost in the gloom. But when he blinked, Jon was gone, perhaps riding north on the wind. That evening, King Samwell sat alone at a makeshift desk in Maegor's Tower, while dusk bled violet across the river. He had chosen the ruin of the Old Hand's solar as his chamber. Shattered rafters overhead, the floor half collapsed beneath canvases of dust, ravens nesting in cracked beams. A more pompous king would have demanded bright banners and perfumed tapestries. Sam chose broken stone and twilight, and the smell of parchment. Quills, inkpots, and vellum scrolls lay in careful rows before him, as familiar as the hilt of Heartsbane was not. He dipped a quill, steadying his breath the way Maester Aemon had taught him. It was easier to think while writing. Words became friends upon the page, patient and unhurried. The first letter went to Horn Hill. "Father," he began, then crossed the word out. "Lord Randall," he tried, and set the quill down softly. He could still taste the smoke from the pyre upon which his father and brother had died. Tyrant's justice in dragon flame. There would be no forgiveness in that letter, and perhaps no reply. But a king must write even to those who cannot love him. He began anew. To Lord Tyrell of Brightwater, and there the words came easier. Talk of harvest levies, plans for rebuilding granaries along the Mander, promises of fair trade with Dorne once the hoof scars of war were healed. He wrote until candle stumps guttered. A hush deeper than night pooled in the tower. Somewhere far below, hammers rang as carpenters shored up fractured joists. Ghostly voices drifted through the cracks. Gilly singing Little Sam to sleep in the rookery loft. Podrick Payne reciting names of city streets to his charges among the orphan children. Arya's quick, bright laughter echoing off training dummies in the yard as she tutored young squires in the Braavosi step. All of them threads in a tapestry he had never imagined weaving. Yet now it cloaked him with quiet purpose. A soft footstep drew him from his reverie. Tyrion stood in the doorway, lantern raised. "I believe," the dwarf said, "our new realm needs a night's rest almost as much as its new king does." Sam smiled. "The realm may rest, but scrolls do not. Grain reserves and levy timetables keep pressing." Tyrion eased himself onto a toppled beam. "There will be time for grain. Tonight, let us talk of walls. The city watch is a tangle of sellsword factions, each owing coin to different creditors. The gold cloaks need a master they fear more than coin, or they will unravel." "Brienne," Sam replied at once. "The Lady of Tarth commands respect without cruelty. She'll rebuild the watch by example." "Now what's in mind?" Tyrion's brows lifted in approval. "And the small council? We should name one before every lord in the realm sends their least clever cousin to haunt these halls." Sam's eyes drifted to the battered roofs outside the broken windows. "I want craftsmen and healers alongside lords. Let the lords learn humility by sharing a bench with the weavers who mend their banners." Tyrion chuckled. "Radical thought, your grace. The nobles will balk. Memnicocker. They may." Sam turned a page, noting council seats in neat columns. "And Tyrion Lannister, Master of Grain. Gendry Baratheon, who knew ironworkers and harvesters alike. Mistress of Whispers, Arya Stark, though he doubted she would accept a title. Mistress of Laws, Sansa, if she consented to advise from Winterfell." The names marched on, each chosen for kindness over pedigree. "Will the crown afford so many honest pockets?" Tyrion asked, watching the list grow. "We will cut the gold brooches from half the courtiers' cloaks," Sam answered. "Melt them down for coin. If the lords grumble, remind them what dragonfire cost their coffers." "Nearly done it." At that, Tyrion rose. "Dragonfire costs more than coffers, my king. But for the first time since I was a boy jesting in Casterly Rock, I hear hope sounding in these halls. Guard it well." When Tyrion had gone, Sam extinguished the lanterns one by one. Firelight faded until only moonshine silvered the broken desk and the scattered letters. He leaned back, bones aching, heart strangely light. Tomorrow would bring petitions and quarrels, outriders from the Reach and Ironborn captains, demanding reparations, tax tallies from the western mines, and no doubt 100 small woes of widow and orphan. Yet beneath those storms, the realm breathed. A faint, steady pulse. He laid a palm on the desk, feeling the wood grain like the heartbeat of the kingdom. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. And a shield did not abandon its watch in darkness. He reached for a fresh sheet of parchment. Outside, the city lay shattered yet living, its embers cooling beneath a sky seeded with stars. The ravens on the tower croaked sleepily, restless on their perches. Somewhere beyond the ragged walls, the black water lapped at burned piers, carrying ashes out to sea. And with them, perhaps, sorrow enough for one age. What returned on the tide at dawn would be new-washed hope, gentle as morning mist. Samwell Tarly dipped his quill, and he wrote into the night. E.K. The bells of morning tolled thin and weary over King's Landing, their cracked bronze mouths still scarred by heat. Samwell Tarly woke to their wavering peal, blinking at the patch of sky, framed by the fallen rafters above his cot. Pale dawn light splashed across smoke-black beams, and dust motes shimmered like fireflies in the narrowing gap between roof and floor. For a heartbeat he felt suspended between worlds. Somewhere south of his father's stern voice, north of Old Town's quiet libraries, adrift upon the breath of ash. Then he remembered. The realm had named him king, and the day awaited his judgment. He washed in a wooden basin whose rim was charred from the dragon fire that had once licked these chambers. The water smelled faintly of lye and lingering smoke, but its chill steadied his pulse. As he scrubbed his face, ravens croaked from the tower eaves, impatient for breakfast. He murmured a quiet promise to feed them soon, then pulled on the same dark wool doublet he had worn the day before. Patched at the elbow, buttons mismatched. A king's raiment, he thought wryly, but even Maegor in his gilded armor could not have felt this weight. Down twisting stairways he went, boots echoing in corridors stripped bare by looters. The throne room still lay in ruin, the iron seat melted to slag. But masons now bustled among wooden scaffolds, chanting measurements while the smell of fresh-cut pine mingled with soot. Sam paused long enough to trade a word with the foreman, approving beef broth for the crew's midday meal. A well-fed mason laid stone straighter, he reasoned, and walls built upon kindness stood longest. Outside, the courtyards trembled under the percussion of hammers. The small folk of King's Landing shuffled past soldiers hauling debris. Bakers ladled porridge to orphan children who queued with chipped bowls. Potters set up stalls of crude clay jugs, hopeful for copper coins. Everywhere Sam looked he saw hunger and weariness, but also movement. Like seedlings sprouting through charcoal soil. He walked among them without banner or guards, offering quiet greetings. A nod here, a gentle inquiry there. Once a grubby boy of no more than 6 tugged at his sleeve and pressed a wilted violet into his palm. Sam knelt, thanked him, and tucked the blossom behind his ear. The boy grinned a gap-toothed grin and darted away, leaving the king smiling after him. Near the dragon pit's shattered shell, a makeshift infirmary had risen beneath canvas awnings. Gilly stood at a trestle table, grinding willow bark with a pestle, while little Sam toddled underfoot, chasing a moth. Her hair was gathered in a kerchief the color of dawn, and sweat gleamed on her brow. At Sam's approach, she broke into a shy smile. "You're meant to be in a hall full of lords," she chided gently, wiping her hands on an apron flecked with dried blood and poultice greens. "I'll find them soon enough," he replied, unable to keep the softness from his voice. "How fare your patients?" "Wounds still fester in the poorest districts," she said. "But Sir Davos brought barrels of fresh salt to draw out rot. We've brined linen already." Sam touched her elbow. "Send word when more hands are needed. The court can spare scribes and pages. Quills can become bandages." Gilly's eyes shone. "You speak like a maester." "I feel more like an anxious groom on his wedding day," he admitted, glancing at the awnings fluttering like ghostly sails. "The small council sits this morning. Tyrion wants to carve duties into stone. I worry we'll end up carving each other." She laughed, a sound bright as new silver. "You'll mend them as you mend scrolls, Sam. One careful stitch at a time." He pressed a kiss to her brow, then scooped up little Sam and spun him once. The child squealed delight, pudgy hands batting at his father's beard. A moment later, with reluctance, Sam set him down and turned toward the Red Keep, pockets heavier with courage. The council met in the Queen's ballroom, its opulent tapestries replaced by bare stone and a reed-strewn floor. A long table of unpolished oak stretched beneath arched windows with missing panes. Sunlight poured through tattered holes in crimson drapery, laying a bloody shroud across parchment stacks. Tyrion sat at the head, quill balanced behind his ear. A ledger opened before him like a judgment book. To his left lounged Sir Brienne in plain steel, eyes alert beneath fair hair bound at the nape. To his right reclined Princess Arianne Martell, fingers drumming a slow tattoo upon a roll of maps. Sir Davos Seaworth occupied a seat beyond Brienne, rubbing thrice-broken fingers together as if feeling phantom splinters of bygone masts. At the far end, Gendry Waters, now Lord Baratheon, slumped forward, arms thick as oaken beams, grease still staining his tunic from the foundry. Beside him, Grand Maester Ebrose, chain heavy upon stooped shoulders, sniffed disdainfully at the smell of metal. Sam paused in the doorway, drawing a steadying breath. All eyes turned toward him, and Tyrion rose. "Your Grace," the dwarf intoned, "we are honored by your presence. Sit, and let ink replace blades." Sam took the vacant chair. No crown ringed his brow. Instead, the silver circlet still pinned his breast like a medallion of humility. He laid his palm atop parchment. "First matter of the day, bread," Tyrion said. "The city granaries hold enough grain for 2 weeks. After that, the docks must flow with shipments from the Reach or we starve." "Nay. All roads from Bitterbridge to the city run thick with refugees and bandits," Davos pointed out. "Wagons will not cross green fields if they fear crimson pools." Brienne squared her shoulders. "I can ride with a corps of the New Watch north to clear the King's Road and south to the Rose Route." "No," Sam interrupted, voice soft yet firm. "We cannot strip the city of its shield, nor can we wait for bandits to grow bold. Lord Gendry, what say the shipwrights?" "Marin." Gendry lifted his head, surprise flickering in those Smith's eyes. "King's Landing has little timber left unburned, but upstream, near Maidenpool Mills, still stand. We can fell pine along the banks of the Blackwater, fashion shallow draft barges within a fortnight. Then grain may come by river," Sam concluded. "Safer than roads, quicker than walls. Make it so." Ebrose sniffed. "Ships may feed the belly, but plague feasts upon crowded quays. Fleas breed in those tumbled districts south of Flea Bottom. We risk pestilence." Sam nodded. "Grand Maester, compile a list of healers, septons, and hedge witches. I want every bit of knowledge from Dorne's water gardens to the Erie's rookery on curing flux and fever. Post wardens at the gates with rosemary steam and vinegar cloth. The healers will lead, not soldiers." Arianne's lips parted in a small smile. "In Sunspear we burn orange peel and sweet lime to drive away foul airs. I will send casks." Sam leaned forward. "We heal bodies, then we mend hearts. The faith of the Seven is shattered. The High Septon's seat is vacant. The Sept of Baelor a charred skeleton. Leave the bones where they lie," Brienne said. "Better to build anew than worship in ash." "Agreed," Sam said. "Yet worship we must. The small folk need solace. Davos, you sailed many seas. Have you ever witnessed seastone chapels along the storm coast?" "Aye," Davos replied. "Shrines carved into cliffs at Shipbreaker Bay. Fisherfolk kneel as waves crash around them. Makes a man feel humble. Then, we shall raise a temple of driftwood and stone upon the hill by the Dragon Pit," Sam declared. "Ace, open to sky and stars, where any god may listen. The realm's faiths will mingle there. 7 old gods, Roller's fiery heart, even the drowned god of his priests come gentle." Ebrose cleared his throat. "Blasphemy is a dangerous seed. Compassion is better soil," Sam replied. holding the maester's gaze until the old man looked away. Let worshippers choose their seeds. No king can dictate the wind that carries prayers. Gendry chuckled. I'll send forge apprentices to shape bells of iron and bronze. Every creed can ring them. The council moved on to coin and quarries, river gates and orphanages. Each item felt like a pebble added to Sam's shoulders, yet he bore them gladly, because with each decision another fragment of ruin metamorphosed into reconstruction. After the meeting, Tyrion lingered as others dispersed. Sunlight angled through broken panes, painting his features in shards of gold and shadow. You wield authority like a quill, he remarked. Ink may flow smooth, but remember the blotter. There will be mess. Nalks. Sam folded a map of the crownlands, fingers stiff. If rulership were simple, any lord could keep his peasants fat and his banners gleaming. History teaches otherwise. Tyrion smiled thinly. History teaches that power bleeds those who wield it. Even the most benevolent king must step over corpses, or he will soon be among them. Sam studied the dwarf's mismatched eyes. One green, one black as wine in candlelight. Both carried sorrow. My duty is to lessen the corpses, not multiply them. Then pray your mercy is not mistaken for weakness, Tyrion replied, gathering his scrolls. The realm contains wolves who sniff gentle hearts like hounds, scenting wounded fawn. Sam's heartbeat stumbled as Tyrion departed, leaving behind the echo of his cane's tap, and a silence alive with doubts. Wolves indeed stalked the borders. Ironborn captains smelling of salt and ambition. Queen Daenerys unsullied now encamped beyond the Dragon Gate, grieving a goddess consumed by her own fire. And in the reach rumors of Randall Tarly's cousins convening at Horn Hill, nursing grievances as sharp as broken swords. He turned to the window and watched smoke threads coil from distant chimneys. Beyond the haze, the King's Road stretched north, vanishing into blue hills. Somewhere out there, Jon Snow carried his exile like a cloak, leading free folk to rebuild a watchless wall. Sam wondered what counsel Jon might offer now. Remember who you are, perhaps. Remember why stories matter. That afternoon, Sam journeyed to the citadel of Maegor's Holdfast, a library spared by the fires because Dragonflame had shunned thick stone. Scribes gathered at his arrival, dusty robes aflutter. Tables groaned beneath stacks of charred tomes rescued from the old sept vaults, and candlelight shimmered on cracked spines embossed with faded gilt. He addressed them simply. The realm's memory lies wounded. We must bind its pages before they scatter on the wind. Lee. Under his direction they formed work crews, parchment restorers, illuminators to repair melted inks, translators fluent in Kiskari scrolls. Young acolytes rushed to fetch willow bark glue and horsehair brushes. When a scribe asked what to do with banned texts, treatises on wildfire, volumes of Valyrian blood magic, Sam replied, "Lock them, but do not burn them. Knowledge cannot be slain with fear. Guard it, lest others wield it unseen." Maester Abrose, though uneasy, offered his chains iron links to supervise the vault, and assigned sigils for classified scrolls. Evening draped itself across the windows, and Sam remained, sleeves dusted white with parchment flakes, fingers smudged by ash ink. He catalogued a fragile codex detailing field crop rotation first penned by Torrhen Stark's maester after the conquest. He paused upon an unilluminated margin. A tiny inked direwolf howling at a harvest moon. "Let the winter feed the spring," the inscription read. He traced the letters, wondering if Bran's ravens whispered such truths upon northern snows. "Ud" echoed from the corridor. Brienne strode in, helm tucked beneath one arm. "Your Grace," she said. "Ironborn raiders probe the mouth of the Blackwater by night. Fisherfolk report longships slipping past the headlands." Sam set down the codex, heart quickening. "How many?" "Scouts claim a dozen hulls so far." Terror fluttered like birds in his ribs. King-making felt soft as candle glow beside iron-studded prows. Yet he met Brienne's gaze. "Show me the charts." Together they knelt by a low table. Brienne unrolled a map, bristling with colored pins. Sam noted currents, shoals, tide heights. He recalled nights aboard the Blackbird with Jon and Gilly, fleeing Craster's Keep. Salt spray, tar rope, the creak of masts. The sea had always frightened him, but also taught humility. Winds defied kings. "We cannot fight salt with ash," he murmured. "But we can light the night." Brienne frowned. "Wildfire is forbidden." "No wildfire," he said. "Lantern braziers to die. Signal towers along the Blackwater bluffs. Let every flame speak. The king sees you. There is courage in 1,000 points of light. Niwen Ran. And should Euron's nephews choose not to fear torchlight," Sam considered, "then we remind them that dragons fly still, though they burn not cities but sails." Her eyes widened. Drogon vanished beyond the narrow sea. "Rhaegal's bones rest beneath the bay," Sam said. "But ravens whisper of 2 hatchlings stirring in Dragonstone's caverns. Spawn of Drogons roaming." "Hearsay," Brienne muttered. "Sailors weave legends around foam and clouds. Legends guide men as sharp as spears," Sam said. "Let the Ironborn believe we nurture hatchlings. If they doubt, they gamble their lives on rumor. Meanwhile, we station archers on the cliffs." She exhaled a slow breath. "I will marshal the watch." Before leaving, she rested a gauntleted hand on his shoulder. "Mercy in the hall, resolve on the wall. The realm may yet stand." When Brienne departed, Sam slumped, palms pressed to the table. Resolve tasted like bitterness coating his tongue. He closed his eyes, letting thoughts settle like parchment dust. Night's mantle fell. Lanterns gleamed along the river, a first web of light in answer to the Ironborn threat. From the rookery tower, Sam watched flames flicker against black water. Gulls wheeled, startled by brightness. A hush of wings brushed past, ravens returning to roost. He offered them kernels of barley and they clacked their beaks in thanks. Footsteps behind him. Tyrion, shrouded in a dark cloak. "Signal fires," Tyrion observed. "Simple, bold, relatively inexpensive. You'll ruin my plans to bankrupt the crown-building catapults on every quay." He smiled, then sobered. "But lanterns won't stop daggers in shadows. Have you considered protection for yourself?" Sam stroked a raven's feathers, gentle. "If I armor my person with steel and fear, I declare mistrust of my people. Better to walk among them openly. Better to live to see tomorrow," Tyrion countered. He produced a small dagger, its pommel shaped as a quill nib. Valyrian steel, forged from a page of Queen Alice Karstark's great sword. "Take it." Sam accepted the blade. Its weight, slight but cold. "I doubt I'll wield it well." "Wear it nonetheless," Tyrion said. "Symbols matter. Let assassins see you hold more than parchment." "Bedin Soraid." Sam slid the dagger into his belt. The quillin's nib glinted like moonlit ink. They stood a while in silence, listening to lanterns hiss against the tide. Far off, thunder rumbled. Storm clouds massing beyond Blackwater Bay. "Tomorrow," Tyrion mused, "we ride to the grain barges." "Tomorrow," Sam echoed. "And the day after that, and the next. Until lanterns outnumber shadows. Ambition worthy of a conqueror. Worthy of a scribe." Sam corrected, voice soft. "I merely copy what hope writes upon our hearts." The next weeks unfurled like cautious petals. Barges slipped upriver, escorted by Brienne's archers. Millers in the reach loaded grain under Gendry's watchful eye, hammers ringing as new flat-bottomed boats took shape in river shipyards. In King's Landing, potters fashioned clay pipes to bring fresh water from hillside springs. Sam walked every district, listening to herbalists, rat catchers, washerwomen, doti. Each spoke needs and sorrows, each returned to work surprised that a king had bothered to ask. One gray morning, he visited Flea Bottom's soup line and ladled broth alongside a septon whose beard was singed, half away. A toothless woman stared at him as though at a ghost. "You fed me once," Sam recalled, laughter warming his chest. "A loaf you stole from the baker's boy to feed your babes." She squinted, then cackled. "And you were the fat crow who nearly fainted when I asked your name." They chatted until the pot ran dry, and as she left she pressed a stone into his palm, a child's carving of a raven's feather. He carried it henceforth like a talisman, but not all hearts softened. At dusk one day, a mob gathered at the Dragon Gate, Ironborn among them. jeering that a book king smeared ink while salt reavers sharpened blades. They hurled stones, shattering a lantern tower Sam had ordered raised. Brienne's riders dispersed them with blunt spears. 2 men died, trampled in panic. That night, Sam wept in Gilly's arms, mourning strangers whose names he did not know. He summoned the mob's ringleaders to the throne hall, now a cavern of scaffolds where artisans welded new ribs of iron into the melted throne's stump. Sam sat upon a simple oaken dais, the silver circlet at his heart. The accused trembled, expecting torture. Instead, Sam ordered them to labor upon the tower. They destroyed until the lanterns blazed twice as bright. They worked under guard, but ate at the same tables as watchmen. And when the tower rose anew, they lit the lanterns themselves. One by one, their anger cooled like tempered steel. Sam's mercy spread whispers through taverns. The king would sooner mend than maim. Whispers reached Horn Hill, where Lord Lorden Tarly, cousin to Sam's dead father, summoned bannermen. Some urged him to march upon King's Landing, claiming the Tarly sword should never kneel to a crow king who bedded a wildling. Others counseled patience, recalling Randall's fate in Dragonflame. Lorden dispatched envoys, bearing cryptic letters sealed with the hunting hounds of Tarly. Sam received one such scroll late at night. Its tone was stiff. "Your claim surprises, cousin. Yet, blood binds. Swear you will restore Horn Hill's honor, and I shall send grain convoys guarded by my riders." Sam answered with a parchment stained by an ink blot shaped like a teardrop. "Honor is not a sword to be unsheathed, but a wound to be salved. Ride to King's Landing and judge whether mercy has place in our house." Weeks passed. No reply came. Meanwhile, Princess Ariane coaxed Dorna's merchants north with promises of lenient tariffs. Market stalls filled with citrus, figs, and bright silks. Trade coins clinked in pockets that had grown light as autumn's leaves. Sam instituted a tax on luxury but waived levies on grain, salt fish, and healing herbs. When questioned, he replied, "Hunger is paid in coin of suffering. Let the crown bear that cost." The Unsullied remained aloof, camped beyond the city walls. Grey Worm refused audiences, guarding the memory of Denrys like embers of a holy fire. Sam visited in secret anyway, accompanied only by Sir Davos Dot. They crossed dusty fields dotted with pale tints, passing rows of silent soldiers who watched with inscrutable eyes. At the heart of the camp, Grey Worm stood before a low pyre where a woman's crown of melted dragons still lay. Sam knelt, offering a small iron box. "Her ashes," he said, "gathered from the place she fell." Grey Worm's eyes flicked to Davos' missing fingers, then to Sam's calloused hands. He accepted the box and closed it with reverence. A long hush settled. "Why come?" he asked at last. Voice clipped, emotion carefully scabbarded. "To tell you the war is over," Sam replied, "and to ask if your men will join the rebuilding. You march to break chains. There are chains yet. Hunger, sickness, fear." Silence again, broken only by distant gulls. "My queen is dead," Grey Worm said. "We are unsullied. Purpose ended. Purpose evolves." Davos offered gently. "Salt heals wounds. Steel mends walls. Men mend worlds." Grey Worm's gaze drifted to the pyre's embers. "We will build. We will not kneel." Sam inclined his head. "Stone has no need to kneel, only to stand firm. Stand with us." Days later, unsullied detachments marched into the city, carrying spades instead of spears. They cleared rubble, rebuilt causeways, supervised fair grain distribution. Their silent discipline awed small folk. In taverns, people whispered that warriors once feared now made cobblestones smooth under children's feet. One languid afternoon, Sam climbed to the tower's highest balcony where summer air shimmered over the city, tasting of tar and citrus. He carried a notebook bound in tattered leather, a gift from little Sam, who had scrawled wobbly trees upon the first page. There he intended to draft a charter. Rights of commons, limitations on crown levies, protections for healers and scribes. A wind tugged at his curls, flipping pages before he could anchor them with a stone. Footsteps approached. Sansa Stark, cloaked in gray fox fur despite the warmth. Her auburn hair gleamed like firelit wine, and her eyes held the stillness of snow-covered fields. "Lady Sansa," Sam greeted, rising. "Your journey south is unexpected." "The north must know its neighbors," she answered, leaning upon the parapet. "A queen does not rule from silence." He offered water cooled in an earthen jar. She drank, assessing him over the rim. "You wear rulership lightly," she said. "Perhaps too lightly. The court whispers that you forget ceremony." Sam shrugged. "Ceremony will not fill bellies." "No," she agreed, "but it binds loyalties. A crown unseen gathers dust." "Nay, Njabu." He touched the silver circlet on his chest. "I prefer dust to blood." A faint smile. Spoken like a healer. Yet sometimes blood must seal promises, not spilled in battle, shared in kinship. She reached into her cloak and withdrew a parchment, stamped with a direwolf. A treaty. Recognition of the North's sovereignty in exchange for open trade and mutual defense. "Wax and quill await your hand." Sam read the clauses, carefully wrought, benevolent in tone. He nodded, dipped his quill, and signed. Sansa watched each stroke, then pressed her own seal. Their hands brushed. Her fingers were cool as river stones. "I thought you might refuse," she murmured. "I see no threat in independence," he said. "A wall may stand between houses, yet still they share well water." She regarded him with something like admiration. "You were always kind, Samwell. I once dreamed of kind kings. Dreams often die." "Let us wake them," he replied. They parted beneath gull cries and sun-dazzled rooftops. Autumn crept upon the realm. Lantern towers girded the black water like necklaces of amber light. Harvest wagons rattled through cleared streets. Horn Hill's envoy finally arrived. Lord Tarly himself, grim-faced but curious. Sam greeted him in the palace gardens where saplings of lemon trees took root in reclaimed beds. The elder Tarly eyed the wildling woman who stood at Sam's side, and the toddling boy, chasing sparrows across pebble paths. Pride warred with unease behind those steely eyes. "You married beneath your station," Warden said. "I married where my heart led," Sam replied. "The realm's heart leads us now. Walk with me." They paced along beds where soil had been mixed with char and dung to foster new life. Lords in plumed hats conferred with plain farmers, trading seed secrets. Children knelt beside hedges, shaping clay into birds. "This is your throne?" Lorden asked. "A garden yields sweeter fruit than iron," Sam answered. He pointed to a row of young vines. "Grapes. Once grown, half will go to Horn Hill, half to the city." Lorden frowned. "You bribe me with vineyards." "I offer partnership," Sam said. "Bring your riders to guard the roads and I will grant Horn Hill relief from southern levies for 5 years. "Why so generous?" "Because fear breeds rebellion. Respect grows loyalty. I would rather gain your trust than your submission." "Bainimdo." The older man studied his cousin. Slowly he inclined his head. "I rode north ready to scorn a crow king. I leave having met a gardener who knows war's true cost. I accept." They clasped forearms as dusk gilded the garden. Gilly smiled, tears shining. Yet beyond the horizon, storms brewed. In the stepstones, a sail fleet under the banner of the Golden Company's shattered sun rallied mercenaries hungry for plunder. Their commander, a Myrish bravo named Quaro Kal, declared intent to carve a new kingdom from the chaos of post-war Westeros. Ravens carried word that Quaro had allied with Euron's surviving brother, Victarion Greyjoy, offering safe harbors in the Shield Islands. Together they massed 200 ships, iron prows eager for soft shorelines. In the throne hall, Sam convened war council. Maps sprawled across trestles. Wooden markers shaped like longships dotted seas. Gendry slammed a fist. Iron and gold together, a pestilence upon trade. Brienne's gaze hardened. "We cannot match their fleet." "But we need not," Sam said. He placed a raven marker upon Old Town's lighthouse. "We lure them into the whispering sound, where shallow channels twist like serpents. There, River barges fitted with scorpions flank the enemy, while shore-mounted trebuchets hurl nets of weighted chain. Victarion's heavy long ships will founder in currents. Davos scratched his beard. Chains can stall hulls, but arrows cannot pierce ironwood. True, Sam said. So we shatter masts with storms. Ariane raised a brow. You control the weather now? No, Sam smiled. But Maester Abrose found scrolls on Wildfire's cold sibling, Stormfire, invented by alchemists' guild centuries past. A volatile powder that explodes not in flame, but in gust and thunder. Tyrion's eyes glimmered with uneasy intrigue. Sounds delightfully catastrophic. We need only sever masts, Sam assured. Not incinerate fleets. He outlined the plan. Stormfire casks launched from trebuchets, winds bursting mid-air, toppling sails. Unsullied archers would pick off officers, while Dorne's swift skirmish galleys harried stragglers. Brienne's coterie would protect supply lines. Silence followed his exposition. Finally, Brienne nodded. It could work, she said. But the cost? Sam answered softly. Far less than surrender. And we offer quarter to any who yield. No burning men alive. The council agreed. Preparations began. Forge fires blazed, casting stormfire pots. At night, Sam prayed the wind would break only wood, not bone. Fear gnawed. He clutched the raven feather stone until dawn. On the eve of battle, Sam stood atop Old Town's high tower with Lord Hightower, Grand Maester Ebrose, and Davos Tarly. Lanterns stuttered in stiff wind. Far off, a bristling line of sails crowded the horizon. Ironborn krakens beside golden banners, sunshot with black. Waves shuddered under their weight, as though the sea itself braced against onslaught. Sam inhaled salt air sharp as knives. May the Mother guide mercy, he whispered. Davos clapped his shoulder. And the warrior guide our aim. Trumpets blared. Shore catapults flexed groaning arms. Stormfire casks arced skyward. They burst amid cloud, releasing thunderclaps that rattled teeth. Wind rippled the enemy line. Masts snapped like brittle reeds. Ironborn cursed as rigging tore. Deckhands scrambled, axes hacking at fallen yards. Gendry's river barges emerged from tidal channels. Scorpion bolts whistling. Chains weighted with anchors whirred from trebuchets, draping across listing decks, binding ships to shoals. Dornish galleys darted among the chaos, sails bronze in sunset, loosing flights of burning arrows to ignite, tar-soaked netting. Plumes of steam hissed where cold waves met sudden flame. From atop the high tower, Sam watched storms of his making churn the sea. It felt both marvelous and monstrous. Each mast that splintered might herald a sailor's drowning. He closed his eyes, prayed again for mercy. Suddenly, a deep boom shook the air. An explosion along the enemy's rear. Victarion's flagship burst into sheets of green flame. Wildfire, unauthorized, uncontrolled. Sam's heart dropped. Who had loosed such horror? Through rippling heat he glimpsed a smaller galley flying banners of House Tarly, his cousin's men. Lorden, seeking swift victory, had smuggled wildfire casks aboard. Panic rippled across the fleet. Burning racks rammed allies. Screams reached even the tower. Sam's soul twisted. Mercy unraveled. He shouted orders to signal crews, rescue survivors, extinguish wildfire with sand and pitch blankets. Dornish galleys turned from pursuit to salvation, hauling Ironborn clinging to driftwood. Unsullied archers ceased firing, dropping ropes instead of arrows. Night swallowed the carnage. Smoke mingled with mist. The Golden Company shattered. Victarion slain. Quarroqual captured, shackled beneath deck. The price. Hundreds dead, waters fouled with char. When Sam's barge sailed among corpses at dawn's gray light, he knelt on the bow, retching salt and sorrow. Bodies floated like husks. Seagulls keened. Brienne hailed him from a smaller boat, bearing survivors. Her face was grim, splattered with tar. "Your cousin is dead," she reported. His wildfire casks burst when a stray bolt struck the hold. Sam pressed trembling fingers to his eyelids. So ends Hornhill's honor. Not ends, Brienne corrected gently. Transforms. He died in hubris, but his men helped pull foes from burning sea. Mercy lives. They sailed home heavy with grief. Sam ordered mass burials on the cliffs, stones carved with neither kraken nor sun, but simple names and the inscription: "Here lie victims of greed and fear. May the tide bear them to gentler shores." Winter's first snow brushed King's Landing months later. Flakes settling upon lantern towers, now gleaming brighter than ever. Grain stores brimmed. Children skated upon ice-slicked pools in the palace gardens. Sam walked among them, the silver circlet at his heart glinting like hoarfrost. Gilly's laughter danced on cold air as little Sam hurled snow at Unsullied who laughed despite themselves. Inside the renovated throne hall, a new seat awaited. Carved from weirwood and ashwood intertwined, its arms shaped like open wings. No blades, no iron. Sam sat upon it only for audiences, preferring garden paths otherwise. Above the seat hung a simple banner. A quill crossed with a spear on a field of sunrise gold symbolizing words and defense united. On the shortest day of the year, he convened a gathering of lords and commoners alike. Maester Ibroz read aloud the Charter of 7 Lamps, rights of the realm codified in 7 articles. Grain for the hungry, healing for the wounded, justice for the lowly, voice for the silent, mercy for prisoners, memory for the dead, and hope for the unborn. Each lamp would burn in the driftwood temple, its flame tended by volunteers from every faith. The crowd listened in hush. Many wept. Some laughed softly at the audacity of gentleness. Tyrion, leaning on his cane, whispered, "7 lamps to chase 7 hells. A gamble worthy of fools and dreamers." "Then may we all dream," Sam replied. As dusk deepened, lanterns flared across the city like constellations mirrored on earth. Bells chimed from the driftwood temple, a harmony of shapes and metals. Ravens rose in startled clouds, wings black against rosy twilight, then spiraled down to roost upon the tower tops, settling like living punctuation marks at the end of war's sentence. Sam clasped Gilly's hand, feeling her pulse beneath glove and wool. Little Sam tugged at his cloak, pointing skyward where the first evening star kindled. The king knelt, letting the child climb into his lap. Around them, the crowd hummed with a new sound. A murmur not of fear nor grief but low wonder, as if discovering dawn after unending night. He gazed upon faces uplifted to lantern light. Blacksmith and septa, lord and sailor, maester and unsullied. He thought of battered scrolls mended, burnt streets replanted, stormfire repurposed to guard trade rather than ravage. Wildfire forever banned, save in history's cautionary pages. He thought of Bran in the north, Sansa's signed treaty, Arya's letters from far seas promising return when tides forget blood. He thought of Jon walking beyond the wall, carving legends in ice. A hush passed as snowflakes drifted through the broken arched windows, still unrepaired by choice, framing sky-like hopes. Sam raised his voice, gentle yet carrying. Yesterday we survived. Today we rebuild. Tomorrow we shall grow. Let each lamp remind us that darkness flees not before sword nor throne, but before compassion shared. If ever we falter, remember the ashes we rose from, and light another lamp. Then none. He paused, listening to hearts beat in countless chests. Then, wordlessly, the crowd lifted candles, torches, lanterns. One by one, flames blossomed, until the hall burned with harmless fire bright as midsummer. In that glow, Samwell Tarly, once a craven boy who feared the dark, saw his reflection in every shining eye, and knew that a king's greatest crown was the light he kindled in others. Outside, the bells rang on, not cracked and wavering this time, but clear and steady, echoing across the quiet, snow-dusted city toward horizons touched by dawn's first blush, even though night had only just begun. Ka-ei-kandi. Snow fell with a slow deliberation of ash drifting from an exhausted hearth, each flake settling like a silent vote upon the mended streets of King's Landing. Icicles dangled from lantern towers, their glass panes aglow with the steady radiance that had become the city's pulse. Merchant stalls huddled beneath awnings of oiled hide, scents of cinnamon and sea salt mingling in the crisp air. In the old fish market, now christened Lantern Square, children skated on a shallow rink of frozen runoff, their laughter echoing off slate roofs repaired with timber from Dorne and the north alike. At dawn, Samwell Tarly rose from a straw-stuffed mattress in his Spartan chamber, wrapped himself in a fur-lined cloak of undyed wool, and padded barefoot to the casement. The courtyard below lay hushed beneath a duvet of white, disturbed only by the hoofprints of Sir Brienne's night patrol. The new throne, an armchair of intertwined weirwood and ash, waited in the great hall, but Sam felt the day's true rulership begin here, watching ice crystals form spiderweb patterns along old glass. He pressed a palm to the pane. Faint warmth of his skin left a blurred imprint, gone as fast as breath on a mirror. A knock sounded. Gilly entered with a terracotta cup of barley tea. She set it in his hands and tucked a fresh quill behind his ear with the practiced tenderness of a gardener staking a sapling. "Letters again," she murmured, voice muffled by the collar of her shawl. "Ravens picked the rookery clean. Ebros sent a runner asking when you'll release more birds." "By midday," Sam promised, sipping. The tea tasted earthy and sweet, a solace against iron-tinged worries. "There's a missive from the Citadel concerning winter wheat strains, and another from the uplands. Lady Rowan Smiths have designed a grain threshing wheel powered by goats. If we copy the plans, it'll have milling labor." "That's right." Gilly smiled, proud. "And goats are easier to come by than oxen these days." A distant boom rolled across the keep. Carpenters dropping timber, or perhaps the echo of works at the river bulwarks. Little Sans squealed somewhere down the corridor, likely chasing a broom as though it were a direwolf. The sound warmed the king more than any hearth. He dressed swiftly, wool tunic patched at the elbow, leather belt bearing the quill-pommel dagger Tyrion had gifted, and stepped into fur-lined boots. Over his breast he pinned the silver circlet, still refusing to crown his head. The circlet's cool weight soothed him. It reminded him he was but steward to the realm's hopes, not their master. Morning council convened in the refurbished solar, overlooking Blackwater Bay. Tyrion already pored over parchments, spectacles perched low on his nose, a recent affectation, though he claimed vanity had nothing to do with the delicate silver rims. Gendry hunched beside him, smelling faintly of forge smoke, tapping calloused fingers on a sheaf of tariff ledgers. Sir Davos stood by a brazier, palms extended to the embers, while Princess Arianne examined a map sprinkled with carved ivory markers. Brienne arrived last, helmet tucked beneath one arm, cheeks wind-burned from patrol. A bead of snowmelt slid down her breastplate. Tyrion cleared his throat. "Before we drown ourselves in figures, I bring tidings from the Stormlands. Representatives of House Selmy report petty lords bickering over grain allotments. Nothing alarming yet, but they request mediation before disputes turn to steel." Sam nodded. "Dispatch Maester Luwin and 3 scribes. Charts of our harvests will show we can spare seed for their winter fields. Offer loaned unsullied detachments for escort if they fear bandits." Arianne tapped the map. "On Dorne's northern marches, my cousin reports small folk fleeing rumors of plague in the Prince's Pass. So far only whispers, but fear travels quicker than sickness. Quicker still when winter chills bone," Davos added. He glanced at Sam. "Might be wise to send healers and faith militant together. Steel calms nerves, prayer calms hearts." "Agreed," Sam said. "We'll equip them with the Citadel's ash vine tincture. Grey Worm's medics can instruct local septons." "Mandrastan." Brienne shifted, armor rasping. "On the Blackwater we intercepted a smuggler's barge laden with Westerland's silver bars stamped with a crowned lion. The crew wore no colors but confessed they answered to Sir Tylan Lannister, kin of the late queens." Tyrion's mouth twitched. "Tylan's ambitions grow brash if he thinks to coin his own realm." Sam weighed the information. "Confiscate half the cargo for city coffers, return the remainder once Tylan swears fealty, and submits designs of his mint for royal approval. Encourage enterprise, curb treason." "Nabaruki." "Mercy again." Tyrion murmured approvingly. His quill scratched notes. They spoke next of lantern oil stores, the forging of ice-tanged plowshares, and a petition from Braavosi shipwrights offering discount rates on cobalt, traded for Dornish lemons. The mundane details formed the sinew that held the court's bones together. Each item resolved tightened the weave of trust between crown and commons. When the council adjourned, Sam motioned for Tyrion and Davos to linger. He unrolled a letter, sealed with blotched wax, bearing a smudged tree sigil. From White Harbor, he said. Lord Manderley reports skirmishes near Lonely Hills. Raiders speak with northern accents, but bear no banners. Free folk drifting south. Davos rubbed his beard. Wildlings crossing the Gifts ruins in winter? I'd only move if game failed or if something drove them. John, Sam murmured. He imagined his friend's stern eyes scanning frost-silver forests. He won't let his people starve. Tyrion leaned back. My guess, the Gift soil froze early. The free folk need trade routes. Might be time to reopen the King's Road toll houses, charge them grain quotas in exchange for safe passage. Mantunan. Sam nodded slowly. And invite their trappers south to teach leathercraft. Winter makes men generous when they share survival. Davos chuckled. You'll have kneelers and free folk swapping recipes before snow melt. The king placed the letter aside. See to it. And send a raven to John. Tell him a lantern will always burn for him here. Davos bowed, departing with long strides. Tyrion lingered. You shed responsibility like leaves, he mused. A wise tree knows when to part with its burdens. An unwise one breaks under snow. Sam replied. Tyrion's gaze turned shrewd. Speaking of burdens, the Iron Bank expects repayment of war loans come spring. We've scraped coin from tariffs and silver confiscations, but we still fall short. Sam's shoulders sagged. Propose staggered payments, with interest offset by surplus grain shipments. Grain spoils, debt does not, Tyrion warned. Perhaps sell royal land. The crown owns half the farms between Wendwater and Duskendale. Sam's brow furrowed. Those are tenant plots. If speculators buy, rents will soar. He exhaled. Better levy a luxury tax on gem imports. Nobles can spare rubies. Small folk cannot spare bread. Brave, Tyrion said. Prepare for howls. Wolves howl, but do not stop the moon. Tyrion chuckled, shaking his head. If you were half as ruthless with yourself as with their jewels, you'd sleep past dawn once in a while. He left, cane tapping. Sam retreated to the palace gardens for a rare moment of solitude. Snow glazed the lemon saplings. Tiny evergreen buds clung to branches shivering under frost. He knelt, brushing powdery white from the base of a tree to inspect its roots. The soil there was loose, dark. A sorcerer's remedy of river silt and crushed charcoal Brienne's gardeners had mixed under Gilly's instruction. Life thrummed beneath. Footsteps crunched softly. Arya Stark emerged between hedges, hair tied back with a strip of gray cloth, leather jerkin dusted with frost flakes. Her eyes, cold riverstone, met his, and something resembling a smile ghosted her lips. Your ravens fly far, she said. Even to Braavos Wends. I came to see if the tales were true. Bened. And are they? Sam asked, rising. Arya shrugged. True enough, though I expected more mud and less quiet. She knelt to touch a budding lemon. This reminds me of Sansa's stories from the Vale. Gardens in winter promise spring. Sam folded arms against the chill. Will you stay? For a time. Her gaze slid to the citadel towers. Word is the faceless men have taken contracts in lies. Someone stirs wars there. I may sail come thaw. You've sailed enough seas to know storms, Sam said softly. Perhaps your place is here, teaching boys not to swing swords at shadows. She chuckled. And girls. She rose, brushing snow from her knees. Show me your sword. Sam frowned. I rarely carry it. Then show me your pen. She flashed Needle's slender blade. Same heart, different metal. He unsheathed the quill pommel dagger. The Valyrian edge glimmered slate blue in winter light. Arya praised it with approving nod. A quill that cuts. She flipped needle, caught it by the hilt. Remember, mercy without defense invites wolves. I'll drill your watch, recruits. Sharpen kindness with teeth. Emenisian. Sam exhaled. A puff of steam. I'd be grateful. Gratitude's a blade too, she said, eyes dancing. By midwinter, stone piers jutted from the black water like patient fingers of a giant's hand. Gendry's foundry clanged day and night, forging chain links thicker than a man's wrist. Part of Sam's newest endeavor, a boom chain across the river mouth, to pivot on capstans should another fleet test their shores. Unsullied engineers oversaw the mechanism. Iron-born prisoners offered leniency, hauled timber and hammered spikes. Work crews sang mournful sea shanties that drifted into the city like gull cries on wind. But progress bred resentment. Tywin Lannister denied license for his mint until he swore fealty, withdrew to Lannisport, and began courting riverlords disgruntled by luxury taxes. Rumors reached the throne of conclaves held in torchlit halls, banners of salmon, heron, and badger gathered under Lion's Mane. Tyrion dismissed them as grumbling, but Sam remembered Wildfire's lesson. Small sparks, great conflagrations. One eve, a hooded courier delivered a sealed scroll scented faintly of lavender. The cipher used by Sansa's spies. Sam broke the wax, blood rushing at the first line. Beware the golden deer. Further text outlined an alliance. Tywin plotting to wed Lord Derry's widowed daughter, forging ties along the Trident. A coalition of lesser houses could choke grain routes, strangle King's Landing's lifeline. Sam summoned council at once. Cold candles guttered in a draft as maps unfurled. Tyrion paced. We cannot fight every rebellious cousin. Better starve them of grievances. Sheath the luxury tax, Abros suggested. Sam shook his head. The levy stays, but we invite Tywin to court under guise of winter festival. Show him trade booths brimming with Dornish silk, rich cheeses, northern amber. Prove taxes feed prosperity. Brienne eyed the map. And if he declines, we ride west, Sam said quietly. Not with swords, but with architects and healers. Repair Lannisport's seawall, shore up their fisheries. Leave Tywin no purchase to claim neglect. Tyrion's brows rose. You'd out generous the generous? Could work. Lions seldom bite hands that season their meat. The plan moved quickly. Gendry led masons west, carrying crates of lanterns. Davos shipped salted cod and barrels of Stormland's citrus to Lannisport harbor. Within a moon, Tywin sent word of thanks, and a draft treaty acknowledging the luxury tax in exchange for partial mint rights, supervised by the Master of Coin. Insurrection faded like frost in sunlight. Yet each diplomatic victory drained coffers faster than debt could be repaid. Sam spent sleepless nights over ledgers, quills dulling against parchment. He met with Braavosi bankers beneath cedar ceilings, as lofty as their interest rates, bargaining in the tongue of sailors he'd learned from Davos. In the end, the Iron Bank extended the Crown's grace by 2 years, interest offset by exclusive rights to import Myrish lensglass through King's Landing docks. Another chain across the river, this time of coin, secured the realm. Spring seeped into the marrow of the world. Snow receded from rooftops, revealing red tile and char-black scars. Buds swelled on lemon trees. Blackbirds nested in tower crenellations. A faint scent of peat fires clung to dawn mist, but the air tasted less of sorrow, more of awakening. Sam's days began before sunrise. He would oversee the lantern keepers dousing night's wicks, then stroll to the driftwood temple. There, 7 lamps burned, a color for each creed. Pale blue for the Seven's mercy, pine green for the old gods, deep crimson for Ruller, sea gray for the drowned god, dawn gold for the many-faced god, amber for the faithless yet hopeful, and soft violet for those whose prayers held no name. Volunteers replenished oil, recited prayers, and shared bread. Each lamp's reflection danced in Sam's eyes as he whispered silent, thanks for every unburned city. One mist-shrouded morning he found Grey Worm kneeling before the crimson lamp, palm outstretched toward its heat. Sam approached quietly. The unsullied commander rose, face unreadable. "Your men built the West Quay in half the promised time," Sam noted. "Soon, Bravosi glass will arrive in safety." Grey Worm inclined his head. "Unsullied serve peace now." Sam remembered their first meeting, bitterness etched in the commander's gaze. "How fare you without her?" Grey Worm's eyes flickered to the lamp's flame. "She is ash. But ashes feed soil. We plant justice." They stood a while, watching crimson glow mingle with blue dawn. Mid-year, the first Royal Congress convened. Sam invited not only lords but guildmasters, healer matriarchs, and even a free folk delegate, a wiry spearwife named Surma Snow, who wore sealskin boots and eyed tapestries with suspicion. The Congress met in a repurposed granary, open-sided to the breeze. Banners hung from beams. Lion, flower, kraken, direwolf, dragon wing stylized anew as quill and spear. Under each sat benches for commoners and nobles alike, arranged in a circle. Sam opened with a reading of the Charter's 7 articles. Voices rose, some praising, some decrying vagueness. A cobbler from Maidenpool argued for fixed bread prices. A lady of the Arbor lobbied for lower wine tariffs. Surma demanded furs for northern refugees. Debate churned like tide, but the circle held. At dusk, they adopted 3 decrees. Grain price caps during famine, a healer's tithe drawn from trade levies, and a Freetown charter for the gift, to be governed jointly by free folk and northern stewards. When gavel struck wood, wild applause broke like summer rain. That night, Sam sat with Arya atop the city walls, legs dangling over stone still warm from day. Torches bobbed below like fireflies, and distant gulls screeched. "You did well," Arya said, kicking heels against the parapet. "No one stabbed anyone." "Yet," Sam chuckled. He exhaled, gaze wandering to lantern towers blinking across the bay. "But I fear we raise hope faster than we raise walls." Arya tilted her head. "Walls won't save you from shadows in men's hearts, but stories might." She tapped the stone beside him. "Tell yours. Let them believe in the fat boy who became king by kindness. If they believe, they'll guard it." Sam looked at her surprised. "Will you tell it?" She shrugged. "I'm no bard, but I know one. Hot pies sell across Westeros. People eat stories with crust." Sam laughed until tears stung. For a moment, he felt the ghost of the wall, of ruined hearthfires, of direwolves howling across milky forests. He felt them and let them go. Summer ushered in festivals. On Midsummer's Eve, lanterns strung between towers glimmered like a second sky. Streets thronged with dancers. Musicians piped breathless reels. Bakers sold honey cakes shaped like ravens. Sam walked among them incognito, cloak hooded, gilly on his arm. They sampled Dornish sweet wine, laughed at a mummer troupe's parody of the Iron Throne melted into a soup pot, and tossed copper stars to jugglers balancing on ash barrels. As midnight approached, bells tolled thrice. The crowd parted to reveal the driftwood temple stairs, lined with children holding unlit candles. Sam pulled back his hood, the silver circlet at his breast catching torchlight. A hush swept like wind over wheat as he mounted the steps. He struck a flint, touched spark to the first child's wick. Flame bloomed amber. The child lit the next, and so on, until a river of tiny lights snaked through the square. Sam spoke, voice carrying gentle as tide. "Let each flame remind us we share night's curtain. We are sailors on one dark sea, guiding one another with sparks of mercy." And so on. Cheers rose, raw and joyous. Musicians struck chords, and the crowd erupted in dance. Gilly leaned against Sam's shoulder. Tears glimmered on her lashes, reflecting 1,000 stars. In early autumn, ravens returned from the citadel bearing news that stirred every mind. The Maester's conclave ratified Sam's proposal to establish satellite libraries in major towns, stocked with duplicate scrolls and basic medical texts. Copying began at once. Scribes worked day and night. Inkstains became the new badge of honor among apprentices. Abros oversaw the first caravan to depart for Harrenhal. escorted by unsullied and Arius trainees. As carts rolled beneath the broken towers, Sam addressed the assembly. "Knowledge once hoarded now flows like river to sea," he declared. "May these words seed fields richer than gold." He placed a bound compendium of healing herbs into the calloused hands of a Harrenhal millwright, a man who had never held more than a mallet. The millwright wept openly, but not all greeted libraries with gratitude. In the hills of the Westerlands, a sect calling itself the Steel Faith preached that maestercraft was sorcery. They burned a shipment of scrolls, raising banners of twisted sword and sun. Their leader, Sir Moros Kenning, claimed visions of a god forged from red steel. The rumors reached Sam as he inspected levee stones along the Honeywine. "We will not answer fire with fire," he told Brienne. "We'll answer ignorance with roads." He ordered cobblestones laid across hill routes, built hospices along the way, and dispatched storytellers and healers to every hamlet. Where scrolls burned, voices sung. Within months, the sect dwindled, its flock drawn to hearthfires where ailments eased under poultices, taught by Gilly's pamphlets. Years turned on. Lanterns never dimmed. Chains across the Blackwater rusted under salt but held firm. The Driftwood Temple's lamps required fresh oil only because pilgrims wept tears of gratitude that extinguished wicks. The luxury tax, once reviled, funded reservoirs. Tyland's mint produced coins stamped with quill and spear, symbol recognized from Dorne to Skagos. The Iron Bank received payments ahead of schedule. Brevosi glass glimmered in reconstructed windows of Baylor's rebuilt sept, renamed the Hall of Voices. On a bright morning, Sam sat beneath a lemon tree heavy with fruit. Little Sam, not so little now, read aloud from a charter draft, stumbling on legal terms. Gilly mended a tunic nearby, needle flashing. Across the courtyard, Arya sparred with an unsullied captain, laughter punctuating clang of blades. Tyrion lounged on a bench, sipping arbor gold, one hand shading his eyes. Bran's ravens arrived then, 2 white birds carrying a woven circlet of northern pine. A note thanked Sam for lanterns, visible even from the wall's ghostly remnants, and invited him to visit when snows thawed. Sam pressed the pine circlet to his breast. Resinous scent filled his lungs with memory of distant pines and Joan's grim smile. "Someday," he whispered. "Someday I'll ride north again." Gilly touched his shoulder. "Not yet. Your lantern here still needs tending." He met her gaze, warmth pooling like honey. "Then let it shine brighter." He rose, took the scroll from his son's hands, and together they walked toward the rookery, father teaching child how to tie message knots. The boy's face glowed with concentration, a mirror of his father's younger self. Though this Sam carried no weight of dread, only possibility. As the raven lifted on the breeze, its wings cut arcs of shadow across sunlight. Below, the city breathed, masons calling measurements, merchants haggling good-naturedly, septists chiming bells for midday prayer, laughter echoing from an orphanage where once only sobs had lived. The lantern towers flickered though day's light overpowered them. Still they burned, for habit of hope must never sleep. Sam lingered in the courtyard's mellow hush, eyes tracking the raven until it shrank to a speck. He wondered if the bird might meet Joan's gaze beneath the endless sky beyond the wall. He imagined his friend reading Bran's note, then smiling, the first true smile in seasons. Perhaps John would light a beacon on some northern peak, a mirror signal of friendship. The world had been carved by dragons and drowned in lion's gold, and bled by wolf and kraken alike. Yet here, in the long stillness between bells, Samwell Tarly believed, quietly, stubbornly, that gentleness could carve new shapes, not grand statues or thrones of blades, but soft hollows in which seeds of mercy might settle. The silver circlet, over his heart, warmed under the sun. He pressed a hand to it, feeling pulse answer pulse. Then, with the calm certainty of dawn following night, he turned toward the granary library where scrolls waited for cataloging, and toward the council chamber where petitions lay unspoken. He walked, steps crunching on gravel, carrying a lantern no wind could snuff, and in his wake the city of charcoal and ash blossomed, slowly, yes, and not without pain. But with each passing season, lanterns multiplied, scattered like constellations reborn upon the earth, guiding wanderers and kings alike toward the simple stubborn light of kindness.